the next contender for Policy Idol seems to have really picked a good subject involving young people in policy making. So let's see how that goes down. It's Alice Weavers. Nice to meet you. Are you ready? You have 3 minutes.
Ready as I'll ever be.
Yes. Now.
Okay. Good evening, I'm Alice, and I'm here today to talk to you about gov.uk/youth, a new digital youth participation platform to involve young people in policy development in England. But first, I'm going to take you back to the days of next slide, please, and the COVID lockdowns. Young people were learning from home. They didn't know what was going to happen to their exams. Members of the public could ask the government questions through the daily press briefings, but only for people over the age of 18. Now let's look ahead to the May local elections, and for the first time, photo ID is going to be required to be able to vote. On the list of valid ID cards is a 60-plus Oyster card, but not an 18-plus Oyster card. Can you spot all the differences here? As we can see, young people in England are marginalised from policy making and democracy. Under 18s can't vote, and 18 to 25-year-olds have the highest rate of dissatisfaction with democracy of all voter age groups. So why is there such a disconnect between the government and young people? Well, my PhD research with over 100 young people and policymakers has shown that young people don't feel listened to, they want to have a say in government policy, but they don't know how to get involved, and the government rarely reaches out directly to them. And on the other side, we have policymakers, where for most of them, they don't have the knowledge or capacity to be able to meaningfully engage young people in policy development because there's no systems in place. The system we currently have, gov.uk, is meant to be the best place to find government information and services, but it's not working for young people. What we are faced with is a mess of outdated pages, inaccessible consultations, and no central place to find out about youth policy or participation opportunities. So my solution, gov.uk/youth, which will function as an information and participation platform to involve young people in policy making. Most importantly, it will be youth-led, involving young people from the start, who will co-design this platform with policymakers so that it works with both groups. This builds on previous pilot projects in the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, such as this Instagram consultation page. There are 3 aims of the gov.uk platform. First is to inform young people and educate them about government policy and how decisions affect their lives. Secondly, to engage them in participation opportunities, from consultations to meeting ministers, and to be able to submit their ideas to government. And most importantly, to provide feedback loops about their participation so they can see how their views have made a difference to policy. Gov.uk/youth will help policymakers to have that inbuilt system to directly engage young people, helping them to develop policy which really meets the needs of young people, understanding their diverse experiences and views. It will open up policy making to all young people, not just select groups. And it will provide schools and youth groups with an educational resource that they can use in citizenship lessons. So gov.uk/youth has so much potential to involve young people at the heart of policy making, because there should be no policy about young people without young people. Thank you.
Well, you definitely know your audience. I think that's clear. Now, who would like to start here? David.
First of all, I'd just like to say that in the Lords, we did amend that photo ID legislation to add in the young person part, but they reversed it in the Commons. So you know whose side we're on.
It's all those young people in the Lords.
Yes,
that's what it was.
Exactly. We were on your side. You're trying to, it's a really imaginative idea, but government and youth are uncomfortable partners, aren't they? As soon as it's a government website, will young people be at all interested in it? And will all the necessary precautionary stuff about what can be said and how eccentric and off-the-wall people can be actually put off the very liveliness of youth? Do you think an initiative like yours is best disconnected from gov.uk?
No, I fundamentally disagree. This should be a government platform because there's been lots of initiatives before, or a lot of the voluntary sector involve young people in policy making, and then come to the government, and there's that brick wall in place because it's something that's operating outside of government. We need to have systems within to improve that connection between the government and young people. And the beauty of this is that it will be designed by both young people and policymakers. If it was designed just by policymakers, maybe they will design something that young people aren't going to use. But young people are involved in this co-design from the start. So probably would not look anything like gov.uk on purpose, but it's using that infrastructure so policymakers can use it, and then young people thinking about, well, what is most going to appeal to them to be able to get involved. And I guarantee that lots of young people will use it, because I know from my work as a youth worker how many young people are desperate to have a say.
Interesting. Bobby, and then we'll come to Trevor.
Thank you so much, Alice. That was absolutely brilliant. And it's particularly brilliant because it allows me to plug some research that we released today, which does show... like
Generations.
I'm not plugging the book, Trevor.
Okay.
It's new research out today which shows absolutely dire levels of confidence among Gen Z in key British institutions. It's a real step change. So I think you are onto a really important thing. This is not an age-based thing. This is a true cohort-based thing, a disconnect between Gen Z and really important institutions, including the police, courts, but elements of government too. So I think, but I guess my question would be just around how will you reach the people who are less likely to engage? Or is your ambition for this to just get to the kind of more interested people within the younger group, or is it? Do you have any?
Yeah, you want to add to this, John?
Yeah. I wanted to ask in the same question in a slightly different way. Before the dawn of time, before mobile phones, I was involved in student politics, and let's be honest, most of us who are involved in student politics are exactly the sort of people that you run away from at a party, right? Because, Jesus, who wants to talk to them? How do you do this in a way that prevents it being captured by the most active, the most determined, the most intense, the most dull and boring people on campus?
So, I have a policy...
You involved in student politics, I just asked?
No, she's far too interesting.
So, I have an implementation plan, but in terms of engaging young people, so it could be used both by individual young people, but also through schools, youth groups, youth justice systems, social services. So going out to those professionals who are working with the most marginalised young people in society to get them involved. And this is not about saying that you have to be interested in politics to be involved in this. This is saying to young people, maybe the policy issue is for care experienced young people. Do you think that you should, what are your options after 16 when you have to leave care and you're going into unsupported, independent accommodation? You know, young people are going to have opinions on that, so it's not about the political angle. It's about policy, the policy decisions that are getting made. The things like, at the moment, BTECs, the removal of them and the introduction of UT levels. For a research project linked to my PhD, we've interviewed hundreds of young people on vocational education routes. And they've got so many thoughts about the things that matter to them around education. They might not be interested in politics, but they know what they should be offered for post-16 education routes.
Yeah, Deborah, you had a quick point.
Really quick question. Internationally, who's getting it right? Which government can you
I'm
point to?
glad you asked that.
Good heavens, I haven't had a strike.
So the UK is far behind other countries in this space. So from the examples we've got here, Canada, USA, and the EU all have great portals precisely for these reasons, information and consultation. And this one from Australia, not exciting, but you can see they've invested 10.5 million Australian dollars into youth engagement. So something to aspire to.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Alice Wheelers.